Victor reveals Claire's true identity. Victoria sheds tears when reading DNA. CBS Y&R spoilers shock. The Abbott and Newman families have weathered storms no one thought survivable. But nothing could prepare Genoa City, or Victoria Newman, for the emotional earthquake that just struck the Newman dynasty. A DNA test. A past buried in shadows. And a name Victor Newman never thought he'd speak again. A whisper from the past. Victor Newman has always been the architect of control, in business, in family, and in legacy. But even he cannot outmaneuver the ghosts of history forever. Over the last few weeks, viewers noticed Victor's unusual quiet observation of Claire Grace, the newest face in Genoa City, who quickly found herself tangled in the lives of the Newman family, especially Victoria. What began as distant politeness between Claire and Victoria turned into an inexplicable connection, a pull Victoria couldn't ignore. Claire's quiet nature and uncanny ability to comfort Victoria in her most vulnerable moments hinted at something more profound. Now we know, it was no coincidence. The DNA test that changed everything. It all began when Victor, acting on a gut feeling, requested a private DNA test. Claire's presence triggered memories, not of her directly, but of someone Victor and Nikki lost a long time ago, Eve Nicole Howard. Eve was an ex-lover of Victor's, and a dangerous one. She had tried to destroy Nikki and Victor's relationship in the past and had a child with Victor, though it was long believed that the child didn't survive. The past was wrapped in deception, betrayal, and grief. But what if the child didn't die? Victor handed the DNA report to Michael Baldwin, asking him to verify every step of the process. The results were irrefutable. Claire Grace was Eve's daughter. The bombshell, however, didn't stop there. Claire's real name revealed. According to hospital records unearthed from a closed adoption case in New Jersey, Claire was born Claire Eve Howard Newman. Her birth was hidden under a sealed adoption. Eve had placed her in care, telling no one. Years later, she died mysteriously, or so Victor believed. Victor had tracked this possibility before, decades ago. But all leads ended cold. Only now, with Claire unknowingly walking into his family's life, did fate reopen the door. And the DNA test confirmed it. Claire isn't just Eve's daughter, she's Victor's biological granddaughter. Victoria breaks down. A mother's pain, a daughter's realization. Victor knew he couldn't keep the truth hidden, not this time. Not from Victoria. With tears welling in his usually cold, steel-gray eyes, he handed the DNA report to his daughter. Victoria's reaction was immediate. "No, no, this can't be," she whispered, her fingers trembling as she read each line. Her voice cracked as she tried to process the impossible truth. Claire, the young woman she had grown fond of, trusted with her emotions, her business ideas, even her family secrets, was her niece. Worse, Claire was Eve's daughter. Eve Howard was the woman who nearly destroyed Victoria's mother, Nikki. The woman who haunted her childhood with scandal. Now, that woman's legacy had returned, through Claire. Victoria collapsed into the armchair in her office at Newman Enterprises. For a woman who commanded boardrooms with unshakable poise, this moment shattered her. "I trusted her, I let her in. And now, she's part of the woman who nearly tore this family apart." But what she couldn't admit aloud, not yet, was something deeper. She loved Claire. Like a sister. Like a daughter. Claire confronted, truth in her eyes. Victor, never one to delay the inevitable, called Claire into his study. He didn't speak immediately. Instead, he placed a photo of Eve Howard on the desk. Claire's eyes widened, her breath catching. "Do you know who this is?" Victor asked. Claire looked down. "No," she said softly. But something in her voice betrayed her. Victor pressed forward. "Her name was Eve Howard. She was your mother." Claire froze. "No, that's not true. My mother died in a car crash." Her name was Jennifer Grace, she insisted. Victor handed her the adoption papers. Claire shook her head, overwhelmed. "Who am I?" she whispered, her voice cracking like glass. "Who am I really?" Victor softened. You are Claire Eve Howard Newman. You are my granddaughter. Claire's knees buckled. She sank into the chair, sobbing, not with joy or sorrow, but confusion. Nikki's worst nightmare. When Nikki Newman learned the truth, her reaction was explosive. Decades of pain resurfaced in a matter of seconds. Her face went pale, her voice trembling with rage. You brought her into our home. You allowed her into our lives, my grandchildren's lives, without knowing who she was. Victor remained calm, but inside, he too was unraveling. We were all victims of the past, Nikki, he said. But Claire is not Eve. Nikki refused to listen at first. She's her daughter. That's all that matters. But deep down, even Nikki knew she was being unfair. Claire had done nothing wrong. She had lived her life unaware of her true origins. She had shown nothing but loyalty and kindness to the Newmans, especially Victoria. Still, the wound of Eve's betrayal cut deep. Nikki wasn't ready to forgive, let alone embrace Claire. Adam's suspicion and Chelsea's warning. Adam Newman, Victor's other son, wasn't surprised by the drama. He had suspected there was more to Claire since the moment she arrived. She's too calm, too perfect. She knows how to manipulate emotions, he told Chelsea. Chelsea, however, warned him to tread lightly. Don't punish Claire for Eve's mistakes. You, of all people, should understand what it's like to live under the shadow of a parent's sins. Adam didn't answer, but the seed of mistrust had already been planted. The family divided. The Newman family, already known for being fractured, now found itself split once more. Victoria, caught between her mother's fear and her father's faith, stood at a crossroads. Claire meant something to her. She couldn't ignore the bond they had developed. But could she risk letting her in? Was Claire truly innocent? Or had Eve's blood passed on more than just DNA? Nick Newman, always the peacekeeper, tried to bring logic to the situation. Look, we can't change where Claire came from. But we can decide how we move forward. Abby, on the other hand, feared for the family's safety. If we trust her, and she turns out to be like her mother. No one finished the sentence. Claire's choice, stay or leave. Claire, overwhelmed by revelations, began to withdraw. She moved out of the Newman guest house. She stopped attending meetings at Newman Enterprises. She even ignored Victoria's calls for a while. But one morning, she appeared at the Newman ranch with a letter. She handed it to Victoria, a letter Eve Howard had written, never sent, but found in the sealed adoption file. The letter was a plea, a dying mother's final wish that her daughter never repeat her mistakes. I wanted you to have a better life. I wanted you to be better than me. The words broke Victoria. Later that evening, Victoria found Claire sitting by the stables, eyes red from crying. I don't know what to do, Claire admitted. Victoria sat beside her. Neither do I. They sat in silence, two women bound by blood, betrayal, and the broken pieces of the past. Finally, Victoria whispered, don't run. Stay. Let's figure this out. Together. Claire nodded, tears falling again, this time not from pain, but from hope. What's next? Genoa City is bracing for impact. With the revelation of Claire's true identity, the Newmans must re-evaluate their legacy. Old enemies may return, hidden secrets could resurface, and one question will haunt everyone. Can a daughter of Eve Howard truly be trusted? Or is history doomed to repeat itself? CBS's The Young and the Restless is about to explode with revelations, heartbreak, and the kind of emotional storytelling fans live for. Don't miss what happens next as Claire, Victoria, and Victor face the storm of truth, and the unthinkable possibility of family redemption.